How do we deal with the retired inactive CPAs? How do we describe them in the UAA? And remember, the UAA is an evergreen document. So the committees, which are composed of 10 on the AICPA side, 10 on the NASBA side, and the two co-chairs will continue to work with this document, and as they make recommendations, we'll take those recommendations to the respective boards, and if they're accepted, then there would be an exposure draft. Well, so we looked at what is in the UAA regarding retired and inactive CPAs. How could the title, could the title be used? And when you look at the various states, that is all over the board. Some states have a title for the term defined for retired or inactive. Some say that if you're not active, you're inactive, and you cannot perform any type of services at all, whether it's volunteer or not. So we looked at this situation, and we came to the conclusion that we really needed to use the term inactive, and we did all the research to do that. And so the one place where the word retired was utilized in Section 6, we recommended to the board that we change that to, we change it to inactive, because it just makes it flow better as you go through the statute and through the rules. And also, the NASBA board asked that the committee, task force and committee, provide examples of what an inactive person could do. Treasurer of the church, or one of my favorites is treasurer of Billy Atkinson's Duck Club, or whatever you want to refer to, or could you serve on an audit committee if being a CPA was not a requirement? So in coming up with the examples, we determined that we really need to have a change in, whoops, that didn't mean for that to do that. We really need to have a change in Section 6 in order to be able to facilitate what an inactive person can do. And remember, the UAA is there as a model for the various states to look at. It's not cast in stone. Then, so moving right along, we've got the definition of a test, and the AICPA did a great job of doing the research and on what does a test mean, and how did that term come to be developed, and why is it in the UAA as the UAA is currently stated. And basically right now the UAA does not contain a reference to or include the SSAEs, and as has been discussed here already, the definition of the SSAEs is expanding and includes more services. So, and actually, there is an attestation process that is taking place with the SSAEs. So we really believe that we need to encompass the SSAEs, all of the SSAEs, within the definition of a test, but that's going to take some time, and it's going to take a lot of more research as we go forward, and it may well, and one of the things that happens is whenever you make a change in those definitions, like a test, then that led us to the word report up here, and we first thought that we would have to have a change in the definition of report, but the NASBA side has come to the thought process that we may need a change. But it might not require a change. And here's what happens to you. As Weatherwax knows, since he's chaired this committee in his prior life that he referred to earlier, you've changed one word. Well, the word report is used 41 times in the statute. It's also used 92 times in the rules. So obviously, what are the unintended consequences? Well, that's what we're working through right now with the committee. Then we also looked at the confidentiality, and that required a change in Section 18, which we've agreed on, essentially. And in Section 19, which has to do with records and the record retention and providing copies of those records to the former client or client. So we're working through that. Mike Weatherwax chaired that task force. He developed the rules, and we are still working on what the statute should look like, which then may or may not require some tweaking to the proposed rules that we've got. The definition of independence, the base that right now the SEC uses, independent in fact. That's what's in the UAA. The NASBA board asked that we look at the definition, and would we consider conforming that definition more toward the definition that's used by the professional standards and what has been adopted by PEAK. So we looked at that, and working with Galen, who was on PEAK at the time, we have made a change, and the board has you'll notice that it says it was approved by the NASBA Board of Directors at its October meeting. Well, that was Friday. All right, that's another one of those tweaks I had to do that I'll get 10 lashes with a wet noodle from Louise. But at least it's current. So we have now changed that to say that it is independence of mind, which is the definition adopted by PEAK. So that's what we've done with that, and we are that conforms the UAA much closer to what the AICPA model and also to the international model. And then on the registration of foreign auditors, you heard Mr. Ferguson speak about that this morning. That's going to be a continuing issue and take a significant amount of work. And I'm handing that off to Ken Odom, who is the next chair. But we do have the firms, and he specifically spoke of China, who are, and he spoke of reverse mergers, who are using that technique to access the U.S. capital markets, and the public could be misled by that technique. And so there has to be some way in which state boards have a tool that they can utilize to protect the public. And again, that is the basis on which the UAA is designed and why it was created. So we'll be working with this thought process, and we brought a task force together, we framed the problem, and then the leadership of NASBA and the AICPA staff met with representatives of the SEC to discuss the problem and how we go forward from here. And we are waiting on a memo. The committee is waiting a memo from that meeting. So that gets us into just a continuing process with the foreign auditor situation. Acts discreditable, we did look at that to see if there were any changes need to be made in the UAA regarding acts discreditable, and what did the professional standards say? The professional standards we determined are adequate or more than adequate to address the issues of any acts discreditable by an individual. So that covers our 6 projects, and I've got about 2 minutes to answer questions, if there are any. Seeing none.
Very good, Carlos. Thank you.